Good afternoon. How are y'all? Bro, that was terrible. How are you doing? Good, good, good. Well, a friend of mine, one of my mentors in ministry said, you never get started, you never get finished. And he also said that the heart can only grasp what the rear end can endure. So we will try to make this short and sweet. Okay? Yeah. So if you will, you can scan this QR code. If there's a glare on it, you can come up afterwards and I'll show you the QR code. You need to take a picture, scan it. You don't have to put your info in now. But if you see a slide or something that you like, you don't have to go crazy trying to copy all the notes on it. I'm recording the audio and I'll overlay it on these slides and send you guys a link to the video so that you can follow along. So don't feel like you just got to feverishly write like crazy, okay? So I'll send you the notes with the recording. And then also there's a lot of the things I'm going to talk about. I put together, if you're familiar with Kids Matter, I was asked to write a chapter on this content for their upcoming textbook. And so for them, I put together, we just called it an AI super bundle. So this QR code will get you access to that as well, okay? Here's a little bit about me. I'm the scary guy there in the middle. Apologies to whoever was in the game breakout. You're going to hear a lot of the same one-liners and same jokes. So laugh or we will be calling you out, okay? My name's Clayton. I'm the scary guy there in the middle. I am a civil engineer by degree, did not grow up in a church home, got saved around 25, started working on staff at a church. One of the few times I felt like God audibly spoke to me, I was climbing the stairs to our engineering office, and I felt like God said, you're not going to be doing this much longer. I did not grow up in a church home, so I was like, you mean walking upstairs? You mean, what do you mean? Like, I prayed for a long time, seriously prayed this, God, why would you call a nerd into ministry? That was a serious prayer of mine, all right? And I found out that a lot of our engineering stuff makes some pretty cool object lessons, all right? So I married my high school sweetheart. She and I have been together since we were 15. And again, the lady said, and all the guys pay attention. She works with a company based in India. We get to travel over there a few times a year. She does medical auditing, medical coding. She has given presentations before, and I have sat in on those. Much more technical and detailed than mine, but because I'm like having fun, I want to sweat by the time it's over with. But she throws out all kinds of little stories and quips and things for the doctors and nurses and whatnot. And they're all like, ha ha. I got in the car like, I didn't understand a thing you said. Okay. So that's my wife, Lee. Our oldest son's next to her, Ethan. He lives in California. He's a psychologist. He lives in LA. So as I told the first group, he got a steady stream of customers. All right. Then all the way next on the far right over there is our daughter, Maddie. Maddie is finishing up her sophomore year of college. She wants to be in early education. She has always been known in our town and church as the baby whisperer. Adults will bring their whining children to her and she can calm them down. Okay, she bought her first vehicle. She did all of her high school online. She bought her first vehicle with babysitting money where she was the nanny for several people. All right, she was a full-time nanny. We're in West Monroe, Louisiana, the home of Duck Dynasty. But I never really watched the show. But Maddie and Mia, Jace's daughter, were good friends. And one of the people she nannied for was Jason Missy. When a few years ago, there was a baby that they were almost adopting. And so she was their nanny. And Jace would always joke with her and say he paid her with his poker money. But great family. She loves them to death, and we got to know them pretty well. Then next to me right here is Charlie. Charlie's our youngest. He is a senior in high school. He's graduating this year. And then next to Charlie on the far right, left over there is Maria. Maria's been with us for about 6 years. She finished her high school up as an exchange student living with us and then is almost through with college. She got married this past summer. And for the ladies, I love to tell you, she had 3 weddings. The first wedding was in June in the South, outside, and hot, okay? There is a very ugly picture of she and I when we did the first look photo. We were both just like snot, crying, ugly crying, because she is my daughter, okay? She is definitely mine. But we love her to death. Then the second wedding was in Guatemala. And we learned in Guatemala a couple things, that pastors and priests are not allowed to marry anyone. So you have to have your wedding recognized in Guatemala, you have to do what they call a civil ceremony. So Maria did a civil ceremony. And as I was telling her last night, it was 45 minutes. Wife, you will do this. Husband, you will do this. Husband, you will go get a job and you will take this paycheck and you will hand it to your wife. Wife, you will do this with the money. 45 minutes. Do this, do that. If the husband gets sick and cannot work, wife, here's your responsibility. I mean, it was just check. All right. Then the third wedding was the missionary where she went to school and church there, did a very Americanized family there, service there. But that's us. Fun fact about us, we've traveled almost 1 million miles together across the U.S., serving churches, schools, businesses, organizations. As I told the first group, we've traveled 1 million miles in a vehicle that's 5 times smaller than a prison cell, and no one's gone to prison, so that is a win for us. All right? I own an agency called For His Kids. We represent about 20 different speakers, entertainers, illusionists, jugglers, okay, all types of carny folk. And I've also traveled and spoken a lot, written a dozen books. One, if you in your bag, there's a book called Intentional Ministry. That is how I run our family. That's how I run my business, the agency. That's how I run my life, is the framework that's in that book. And we're going to talk about that a little bit at the end. Okay, so that's a little bit about us. So let me ask, who is currently using AI in some capacity? There we go. Good. I see a lot of hands going up. So this is not going to be like on the merits of AI. Should you use it? Should it not? Is it going to take over the world? All that kind of stuff. That's not what I'm here to do. What I want to do today is just kind of show you some ways of how I use it and ways I've seen other churches use it to lessen our workload and just get things done faster. Okay. What is AI? Artificial intelligence. Yeah. So I was at a conference a few weeks ago, and someone asked the question, what is magic? Now I know what is illusion, but he asked, what is magic? And everybody's talking, well, magic is blah, 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 blah. And this one guy went, magic is an opportunity. So what is AI? AI is an opportunity. One of my favorite scenes in a movie that is really biblical, but it's not in the Bible, is in the movie Evan Almighty. I love this scene where the wife is all distraught. She's leaving and going back home. And Morgan Freeman is right there at the table, and she says, what do you do? Because if you've not seen the movie, it's like a modern telling of Noah's Ark. So the husband's trying to build a boat. She's distressed and leaves. And so the wife basically says, my husband thinks he's Noah. What do I do with that? And he goes, sounds like an opportunity. He said, if a person prays for patience, do you think God just zaps them with patience? Or does he give them the opportunity to be patient? If they pray for courage, does he just give them courage, or does he give them the opportunity to be courageous? If a family prays to love one another, does he zap them with warm, fuzzy feelings, or give them the opportunity to love one another? AI is an opportunity. It's an opportunity for us to leverage the current technology to enhance and impact our outreach, our ministry, and whatnot. Dude, when I started in ministry, which was I didn't grow up in a church home. I got saved around 25. And when I started, I was the first ever kids person at our church. They had a lady that was one of her many responsibilities. So we had 3 Sunday morning services. The sanctuary we had was pretty tight. We were running around 750. And if you came at first service, the kids department had something for first graders and 5th graders. If you came at the second service, we had something for 2nd and 3rd graders. If you came at the last service, we had something for preschool. And it just never made any sense. So it was just one of her many duties. She didn't think about it. So when they hired me to be the first ever kids pastor, as a family who was going to this church, I'm thinking, well, the first thing you got to do is have whatever service we have, everything's got to be the same. And they put us in the corner of the fellowship hall that was the junk corner where everything piled up. And that was me in a corner like this with nothing. The very first service I planned and prepared, I had it ready. Okay, I was like loaded for bear. We're going to be able to go an hour and a half. 15 minutes, I was done. And we went to the playground, okay? We didn't have digital media back then. We had a rolling cart from the 1900s, all right, that you would roll in. And I never will forget, like we didn't even have a VCR, or we had not a DVD player, we had a VCR. And so we had VCR tapes, and I would plug one in, and I'd like have the worship set we're going to do, and I'd be fast forwarding it, pass the song, and the kids like, we want to sing that. We ain't singing that one today. We singing this one over here. All right. So I was like, we're not doing it. And then I never will forget, like I went to a conference and met Brian Dollar at High Voltage, and he and I have become friends. And somebody had ripped open one of his DVDs with a few of his songs on it. And he said, here, dude, you can just have it. It was the end of the conference. And so I took it home, and I had MP4. I could use my computer and actually play a video. So think about that. How felt boards, all the technology that we use through the day. And now we have this powerful technology that can do nearly anything, okay? Nearly anything. So when you ask me what is AI, I think it's an opportunity. Okay, now we have to leverage it, put harnesses on it and parameters on it, but it really is a powerful tool. What it is not is this: AI will never, ever replace a spirit-filled teacher, ever, ever. Okay, it'll do a lot of things. It ain't gonna lead a kid to Christ. It's not gonna be someone at 2 a.m. got woke up by the Holy Spirit and said, pray for this person. It's never gonna do that. All right. My mother-in-law tells me that if you wake up in the middle of the night, that is God telling you to pray for somebody. And you start praying, and when you pray for whoever he wanted you to pray for, he'll let you go to sleep. And if you don't, you're not going to sleep until the next night. It is AI with all its powers and capabilities. It will never replace a spirit-filled teacher, okay? So don't have to worry, okay? There's never going to be that, all right? So here's how I view AI, okay? I view AI as my own personal Jarvis. How many of you seen one of the Iron Man movies? Okay, we all have. How many times does, like, Tony Stark's wanting to do something and he just starts talking to this robot, Jarvis? That is exactly how I talk to these platforms, and I'll show you the couple that I use. I treat it like my own personal Jarvis. You notice sometimes Tony Stark's like, I'm finna throw you out this window. Like, I have said that in the thread to ChatGPT, like, you are being stupid, right? You are not working. I clearly said do this and you did this. You're right, I'm sorry. All right? So, yeah, it will say that to you. Like, you're clearly right. I clearly misread your instructions. Let me go back and do it again. Okay? So that's how I view it. When I am adding a prompt or writing something in AI, I talk to it just like I would talk to me or you. Okay? So don't think you have to have some, robotic language. Just talk to it like a human. Okay? Even though it's not. All right? And then people always ask, well, what platforms did you use? The way I view the various platforms, and there are multiple ones growing each and every day, I view them like the apps on our phones or the apps on our TV. Like, we only subscribe to the live version of Hulu when it's ball season and my wife wants to watch college football or basketball or whatever. I don't pay the $500 a month they charge now for the whole year. So there will be some apps, some platforms that you may only use for a month, and you get what you need out of it and then unsubscribe from it, okay? And then wait for it again. There's some that, like Netflix, you may always keep, because you use them so often. And I have a couple of those that I use like that. But that's the way, just kind of how I think about it. I talk to each of these platforms just like I would talk to you, and I don't have one perfect one. And I don't know that there will ever be one perfect platform that will help us do whatever we want, because there's so many just niche AI platforms out there that will do just certain specific things that you may subscribe to for $20 for 1 month, get everything you need for the year, and then cancel it, okay? So that's just some ways that I think about it. The two that I'm gonna talk about today, the main two, are ChatGPT and Notebook LM. Now, most of you probably, how many of you use chat on a regular basis? Okay, how many of you have used Notebook LM? Ooh, only one. How many of you know what Notebook LM is? Okay. So nearly everyone's familiar with chat. And I just put that little note under the bottom. For whatever reason, ChatGPT works better for me on my phone than it does on my desktop. Like, it lags a little bit on my, are you noticing that too? I see you nodding over there. Yeah. So what I'll do, if I need to copy a lot of material, I'll use my phone and then just open up the thread on my desktop and give it 2 days to reload. So Notebook LM is through Google, right? I think it's through Google. So if you have like a Google Drive where you pay a certain amount a month for storage, like we have Google Photos, so that any photo we take on any device saves to one big drive so we don't ever lose. Because one of the saddest moments was when I had to upgrade my phone and lost all my old pictures. Like, my mama died in 2017. I know where she's at. I don't know where those photos are at, all right? But so if you have a Google folder, when I went to pay the Notebook LM was like $20 a month or whatever it was. When I subscribed to the paid plan on it, it actually lowered my overall Google account. So I actually got Notebook LM at a reduced rate, basically for free. So what Notebook LM does is it makes learning faster. Like, that's one of their taglines, all right? A couple ways you can use this one with your volunteers or with your team. And I'll use an example of a very good friend of mine. Her name is Katie. She and her husband, we do family night with them and their boys once every other week or so. I actually did their wedding. Katie is the sister I never had, or sometimes I just tell her the sister I never wanted. So she's an accountant, a bean counter, and I just love her to death. But she is getting her master's and PhD. And she has to write like 5 papers a week for this, whatever she's doing. And she's given the sources of things she has to read. So here's what you can do in Notebook LM, okay? And you can do it with the free account, all right? You load up a YouTube video or a PDF or whatever, you just load it into the sources, okay? And I won't get into the technicalities of how to do that. There are plenty of ways, very, very user-friendly. But you load up all those resources. The difference in Notebook LM and ChatGPT, when you say, hey, you ask a question in ChatGPT, it searches everything that's ever been published in the world to give you your answer. Notebook LM only searches what you input. So Katie has in her notebook, she can have various notebooks. So in her notebook, it'll be week 1 of whatever, and she uploads the 5 or 6 resources. Here's what's really cool about Notebook LM. It has a feature, once you load your resources, where it will produce a podcast episode for you on all of those materials, on the highlights of the materials. And it's 2 people talking. So today we're looking at this resource from Clayton, the High Level Speakers Playbook. Man, it seems like a really good resource. And it's a man and a woman going back and forth. What you can do with this, with your volunteers, you can load up your curriculum and say, and you can do a short, a medium, or a long, and say, on this story of David and Goliath, give me a short, like 2-minute podcast on this. It'll spit it out in a minute. And then what you can do is send that audio to your team, your volunteers, and say, hey guys, y'all know this week we're teaching on David and Goliath. Here's a little short recap of what we want to focus on, okay? Super, super useful, okay? Super useful. Like if you've got a volunteer manual you want your kids, your volunteer team to know, load that joker up into Notebook LM and say, give me a podcast episode on this. And they will hit the highlights, okay? Lots of use cases, but the main difference in these two, this searches the world, this only searches what you input. So each week you can do that. And I'm gonna show you at the end a really cool way that you can use Notebook LM with a couple other platforms, okay? But that's their main differences, all right? The thing about AI that I like is that you never have to feel stuck again, okay? It will do whatever you ask it to do, all right? So think of it like this. Your job as the spirit-filled leader and teacher is to think of steps 1 to 10. You are to do step 1 and step 10. And on the things I'm going to show you, the AI will do steps 2 to 9. And it'll do so you do what you can do and let it do what it can do, okay? But you don't ever have to be, when I don't know where to begin, I'll go, hey, I need to I'm thinking about creating a weekend for parents. Give me some ideas. And hit enter. And then go, those were all garbage. Give me 10 more, okay? And then, okay, I like one phrase in number 2 and this phrase in number 6. And then it'll combine them and go, well, if you want to do that, here's the thing. So like how many of you have ever watched, it's been off for a while now, how many of you ever watched the TV show House? You remember that show? Yeah. I love House because he's snarky and sarcastic. All right. We have 6 family values, which is we'll talk about that in a minute, but one of our family values is snarkasm. We have a degree in that, PhD. But my brain works like House's. You know, he is not always the genius. He'll go in there and, what do you think? And the nurse will start saying, no, that's stupid. What do you think? Oh, this, no, that's dumb too. And then what do you think? You all are stupid. And then finally, someone says something, he goes, oh, that's it, right there. Think of AI like that. Just keep asking, oh, that's a dumb idea. I don't like that one either. What about this one? And then just go, oh, that's the one I want to go to, all right? So I'll show you some practical examples. I think of ChatGPT specifically. Think of it as like your tireless intern. It will do whatever you want at a PhD level. Okay, now you still have to check it because I have found some things wrong. All right, I use it for research, all these things here, weekly lessons, all right, series that I want to come up with. And like I said, you don't have to worry about taking notes on all of it unless you just want to, because I'm going to send you the slides. All right. Here's a disclaimer. A lot of people always say, you know, what is the ideal thing I need to input to get the output I want? There is no perfect prompt. If it just doesn't do what you want it to do like Tony Stark and say, I'm going to throw you out this window. All right. And the first output just does not have to be the last output. Okay. Here's a couple ways. Like I just led a lesson a minute ago, a breakout on the blank game. All right. Some of y'all were in here for that. All right. And the blank game is how I create games for anything. Okay. Because every game follows this format. How many blank things can you do this action to in however much time while avoiding this hurdle to keep you from doing it? And as I told them, the funnier the hurdle to for the contestant, the funnier it is to watch. So one of my rules for games is it has to be just as fun to watch as it is to play. And that'll keep you from losing your crowd. So this whole slide right here, AI, I input this sentence right here and said I'm creating this game. And then for the guys in that session, I had ChatGPT give me 100 of each of these blanks. So you can just go through there and go, ooh, I want to play a game with how many balls can you juggle in X number of seconds while wearing flippers or wearing blindfold or something like that. So it has those things you can just pick and choose from. But I created this slide, all the slides for that in AI. Well, just giving it simple prompts, okay? So I uploaded that statement and said, give me a PowerPoint slide that I could use to talk about this. And it spit it out. So if you need a lesson in your ministry, on whatever, I've often said of curriculum companies that I think they have 2 dartboards. I think they have a dartboard of biblical characters, and they have or 3. Another dartboard of verses, and then a third dartboard of themes. And are we going to talk about Paul using Psalm 32? And he's in the jungle. And that's how all VBS curriculums appear to me. So in the stuff that is true, we're going to get a jungle VBS. We're going to get a water VBS, okay? We're going to get an aviation VBS, all right? Yeah, or the adventure. Got to have one in Egypt, okay? One of my favorite ones years and years ago was called Rickshaw Rally. And the skit at the end was awful because it had 2 commentators and they wanted you to do basically Japanese voice. And so they didn't give you a name for the 2 announcers, and they asked me and another guy to be the announcers. And they only called us the words was not like Clayton and Kevin. It was commentator 1, commentator 2. So the whole time we're going, commentator 1, what do you think of this action? I don't know, commentator 2. So it was funny. Yeah. So here's some ways I do some research. I was sitting in church the other day, and the pastor made a comment about something, and my brain, I'm like a golf ball teed off in the bathroom, just kind of all over the place. My brain said, what about the veil in the temple? And I wanted to know, about the veil, how big was it? What size was it? Was it like a shower curtain and would it just flop in the wind? So I open up ChatGPT and I'm just start asking it, hey, give me some research with citing the sources on the veil in the temple. Like how big was it? What was it made of? This and that. And because it doesn't really give all the full dimensions of everything. I looked it up and it spells out, okay, according to this theologian, here's, the thing, according to this site is, citing the sources is a good one too. So you can go back and double check it. And so that curtain in the temple was like 4 inches thick. One thing I asked was did they ever clean it? Because I just was curious. I was. And you laugh at that, but if you teach that in your class, your students are going to laugh, okay? This thing was huge, okay? It was 4 inches thick of heavy fabric. It ain't flopping nowhere, okay? So those are little nuggets in the lesson that it can help you bring out. So when the Bible says it was ripped from the top to the bottom, there is no other entity that can do that but God. You understand? And so on the way here, when I put together, like I said, okay, I'm doing a PowerPoint presentation on the veil in the temple, and I want to call it Torn. Give me a visual graphic for that. Now, this one took me probably 10 tries for them to get the veil to rip at the top. It would just be ripped all the way down. And I had to talk to it. You dirty dog. I said, do this. Okay. And I finally had to find a picture that was similar to what I wanted, and I posted it and said, I want it to look like this. And they went, oh, we got you. And they made it pretty correct. Okay. But I thought this would be a great series and talk about all the times where people have torn their clothes. Okay. Because when they did that, you were in trouble. Okay. Another image, like one image I wanted to have for teaching the story of Noah was a friend of mine and I both were talking about this, just talking about that story. When that flood happened, Noah had to hear people clawing at that boat and saying, let me in, let me in, let me in. So I asked ChatGPT, I said, hey, give me a picture of the flood as it's starting and people clawing at the boat. And that's what it gave me there. And you'll be able to see them a lot better in the bigger one there. But so something like if you've ever saw the movie Noah or whatever that came out, that was horrible, in my honest or humble but accurate opinion. It was horrible. But one thing that I learned from the story of Noah watching that movie was they show Noah drunk the next day. And for whatever reason, I never thought of it like that in this context. But when I saw the movie, it made me think of this. like like it says, Noah was drunk like a day or so later. I would imagine he was drunk because he got drunk trying to forget all these horrible memories. Could be one reason. I don't know if he was, but I've never thought about him hearing these people scream and like, let me in, let me in. He probably wanted to forget that. I have one on nicknames because my name is Clayton. My dad has never called me Clayton. He only calls me and my two brothers by our nicknames. My nickname my grandfather gave me was Dude. Okay, not like dude, just Dude. Okay. My middle brother's nickname is Flapper. We don't really know how he got that name. And then my baby brother has a name that I will not say in here because my mama would die, but I'll just say the night he was born, he was the only white baby in the nursery, if that gives you any idea. So then the last one was another one that was on the plagues of Egypt. Do you know that the plagues of Egypt, I was studying those a little bit last summer. Each plague that God sends is a direct hit at one of the Egyptian deities. Every one of them. So when God keeps going on, he's knocking out this deity. He's knocking out that deity. He's knocking out this one. He's knocking out that one. This is a thing that I use. Now, I normally tell people, and it is true about me when I present on a Sunday morning, I am allergic to slides. I just don't like using them. In a situation like this, it works, so you can kind of see. But so, yeah, that's how I use it if I was going to do research. Anybody got any questions before we keep going? Because I'll just mouth and won't give y'all a chance to breathe. Anything? All right. I'll show you some other ways that I like to use it, like weekly lesson prep. There is no perfect curriculum out there. I'd never found one. I had some that I liked, but I always found myself supplementing for it, okay? So one thing you can do, if you have a PDF of your curriculum this Sunday, you can load it up into ChatGPT and say, hey, look at this document and tell me what's missing. What could I add? All right, just ask it questions, all right? Like I would like to say, like, fill in what's missing, give me a game, give me some prayer prompts, give me a small group discussion guide. And it reads that it's amazing how fast it does it. It reads that document in seconds and will give you all of those things. So that PDF, when you scan that code, and I said there's an AI super bundle, it's going to give you all of those prompts in there too. It'll give you a bunch of the ones I use. Yes, ma'am. You don't have to. I do pay for the $20 version only because the $20 a month version, only because I use it so often for so many projects that we have that, like, I wrote a book a couple years ago and published it. People always ask, how'd you get started speaking and going to speaking churches and this and that? So I get asked that question a lot. So I created a book on how to start a speaking business and build a speaking business called the High Level Speakers Playbook. And in it follows 6 avatars, 6 people that are the problems that everybody builds a speaking business around. So when I had the unpaid plan, I would say, hey, give me a picture. Like one of the avatars is a guy named Mystified Michael. He's the guy who comes up to me after a show and goes, Clayton, how in the world do you get started in this? I'd love to start speaking. Like, how do you do it? So the book gives Michael the tools to put into place to get started. So I was saying, all right, I want a picture for Mystified Michael. And it would spit out one. I'd say, oh, I don't like that one, or I do like it. And then I'd go, all right, give me this one. And I was inputting so fast, I got put in ChatGPT timeout. Has anyone gotten put in there? Yeah. So you just input so much stuff so fast and go, hold up, you got to have a timeout. And I'll usually just tell it, no, I don't. Give me what I asked for. And they're like, okay, here it is. But yeah, I do pay for the $20 version of it. Yes, ma'am.
It's kind of the same thing. Like I'll put some. I don't know how to put PDFs in it, but I'll ask it something, and it always gives you like awesome answers. And some of it you can't use.
Right.
I'm just saying, it'll give you great information. And I was like, the other day I went in to ask it something, and it said I needed Pro, and like it responded to me that I would need to upgrade.
Yeah. Right.
Like I haven't used it enough to understand that.
Yeah.
That's why I was wondering, like, what's the difference of the free versus...
It does have some limitations. I don't remember all those, and they change them all the time. But you should have in your little prompt thread there, there's, like on mine, there's a plus, and you just hit the plus. You can attach a photo. You can attach anything from your phone. Because I use most of mine from the phone, because the desktop, just for whatever reason, is slow. So I'll just upload whatever file, and it'll read through it, okay? But like if you want to do any of those stuff, research, memory verses, anything that you wish you had, it will create for you. And it's searching all the other curriculums and resources that have put stuff together, and it'll give it. And here's another thing. If you know of, like, let's say you like group publishing. You can upload it and say group publishing, puts out this material. Give this to me the way group publishing would give it to me. And they'll be like, okay, and give it to you. It is crazy. It's wild. Yes, ma'am.
The other day, we do a lot of plays in our church, and I have to build sets out of styrofoam. And the other day, I put in Chat GPT a picture of our stage, and I said, make a Jerusalem for me with carts with apples and food on it, and I want a garden of Gethsemane to the right, or to to that side. And I want the table for the 12 disciples of the Last Supper. And I was just very specific, and I said I want a cross and a tomb, and I want a lookout of like what it would look like in the walls of Jerusalem. Oh my gosh, it was the best picture ever. And honestly, it's something that I can make. But I couldn't get past the creating it in my brain.
Right.
To be able to create it for real.
Yeah. That's why I say you never have to feel stuck again. And if you do feel stuck, just say I'm stuck and I'm trying to create a play. What are some things I need to think about? And just talk to it like you are really dumb, and it'll say, here's some things to think about. So you can, on your curriculum, like I was mentioning, you can create that Notebook LM podcast episode. It'll even create a little slideshow for you now. They've increased some of their output and capacities. And just always check the output. I mean, you don't want to say, and Noah raced out with 5 stones and he whacked David in the head. All right. It's not perfect. Okay. I've even had, you can, in Notebook LM, you can upload your entire slide deck and say, hey, give me a teaching outline that I can share with my volunteers. It'll give you that too. And then that super bundle has a ton of the details too. All right, let me talk to you just a minute about visuals. Years ago, when I first learned that ChatGPT would do visuals, the picture on the left is my daughter's fiance, Jamari, and he was over at the house, and I was so excited. I said, Jamari, let me show you what I just learned. And so I snapped this picture of Jamari and said, I learned that ChatGPT will give you an AI version of a picture or photo. So I snapped this photo real quick, and the output is that on the right. So not sure if you spot any obvious glaring differences in the photos, but yeah. So we have laughed and laughed about this photo, but yeah, it didn't get all the context right, as you can see. It did get his T-shirt right, and if you'll notice over his shoulder, we have a little chalkboard with a X on it, and over the shoulder on the right side, the back has a little bit of an X, but it's not perfect. But that was the old visual editor in ChatGPT, and they've really, really increased their capacity and their ability to do images better. So I'll give you a couple other examples of how you might use the visual editor in ChatGPT. I don't know if you need like coloring sheets. That's one example you could do. I always like to have those for before service or even in transitions to help out. Lots of coloring sheet ideas, and here's just a few I generated to show you guys. So a lot of the first 4 are preschool friendly Old Testament type or New Testament type coloring sheets. And then the one on the right over here is one that my daughter likes coloring these, even though she's 21. But it's those that takes a lot of time. This sheet here on the right may take a kid a week to color it in because it's got a lot of texture and detail that you can add to it. So that's just a few examples of some coloring sheets. And then I want to show you in this next slide here just some of the issues that, even though Chat has greatly increased their image making capacity, it still has some issues. So I wanted, rather than preschool, here's one for like 3rd through 5th graders. And I wanted to create an image of Moses and the 10 Commandments. So if you'll look on this first image over here on the left, you'll notice that it doesn't have the numbers exactly right, 1 through 10. So then I said, in the second image, I said, you know what, just erase the numbers off the tablets. You'll notice it keeps the title and the look of the rest of the photo exactly the same. That was not always the case. Sometimes it would just give you a completely different image, and it couldn't, keep the context or the character within the first image to the second image. It just would mess up. So I didn't like it looking blank. So the third image there was, hey, add the numbers back. And if you notice, it still didn't have the numbers correct. So I went in there and told it, hey, you have number 9 and number 10 wrong. Number 9 should be IX and number 10 should just be X. And then so boom, it gave me the correct image when I, gave that. So all that to say, when you go through, especially creating images with text, it may take a time or two for you to get Chat to give you the exact thing that you're looking for. Then one more thing we can look at as far as visuals go, I use it to create the images that go on the covers of my books, our banner that's at our booth out there. ChatGPT created that for us in high quality, print ready resolution. Our logos that we create for our individual events or our ministry, we create those. I did a verse a day. And just so you know, I did not input the verse a day. I asked ChatGPT, hey, give me 90 verse a day verses that I can use to create the images. So it gave me the list of verses. You can even specify what translation you prefer to use. So it gave me that list of verses, and then I created one at a time. Give me a square image that can be posted on Facebook and Instagram for verse number 1. Once it created that, I'd saved it and said, all right, now give me the one for verse number 2. And then so I just went down and created those 90 images. Took me, I don't know, maybe an hour or so to do that, but I would just have it create an image. And then while I'm working on something else, it would be in the background running and creating that image. I've used it to create different slides for messages. And then like the Hero, Villain, Princess is a game that I play in my game show. Cat's Revenge is another game I play. And then the one on the far right is, I was talking with a friend at church, and she was wanting to write a children's book in the style of this book here. And I forget the name of the book, but it's supposedly a very famous children's author that writes and publishes the visuals within their book in this style. So I was just helping her think through how she might use, some of the visual creations abilities within chat to help her, publish her book. She said, well, let me see what it'll do. So I said, okay, give me Psalm 23 in the style of, and she gave me the name of that book and the author, and it spit out this right here. And if you'll notice, the text on Psalm 23 is exactly right. It used to not be that way, but Chat has made tremendous strides in improving their image editor, as you can see. Overall ministry help. Here's some things you can think of. If you wanted to do a yearly theme and a focus for your ministry, you could get it to give you ideas for that. A preaching calendar. That was one thing that I was really adherent to myself, because the church I was on staff at, we had 8 services a week. So I wanted to simplify my teaching. So whatever I taught Sunday morning, we taught Sunday night, and we taught Wednesday night. The same lesson for the kids all week. So I would, get different helps that way. If you're doing VBS or day camp or Kids Fest or whatever, and you want a marketing guide of, hey, 6 weeks out, I need to be posting this. I need to send this email to parents so that you ensure you have good success, it'll give you those things too. If you're doing a leadership development with your team, say, hey, I want to talk on this subject or whatnot, and it'll spit it out. So it's really cool on the things that it can do. Any questions there? Yes.
I'll just speak to that as an example. My pastor came to me at the end of last year. He said, Chase, I love this VBS that they put out recently. I love the theme. I want you to take it for your next 12-week series to do it with this theme. And I was like, VBS, right? And so the problem there was, how do I take a 3-4 night VBS curriculum, turn it into a 12-week series? Well, I used AI to do that.
Nice.
So with working with that, we had a 12-week series.
Nice.
In one afternoon.
Yeah. So what, did you use chat for that mainly?
I did.
Yeah. So there you go. I mean, it will do anything that you can think of and things you cannot think of. I mean, it's pretty amazing. You can even, in Notebook LM, here's something you can do in Notebook. Go to your children's page on your website and copy that link and go into Notebook LM and input that as one of the sources and say, give me a podcast episode on this website. And hey, today we're looking at South Cleveland's kids. They recently went through a rebrand, and here's their new logo. Here's their new thing. And here's the thing, Pastor Chris, he's really awesome. He's been in ministry, blah, 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 years. Every week they have these. Here's what I learned about it. Okay, I put all of the For His Kids pages in there. And the one thing I got is one of my guys who's been doing ministry for close to 40 years. It said, Rich has been in ministry 10 years. And I went, no, he's not. So I went to Rich's page and I had a typo. So it found those little typos. So I'm telling you, these 2 platforms will really, really help you. Chris, do you have anything, or were you going to? Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if I was in trouble if I didn't go to the principal's office. All right, the little book that you guys have on the end of your bag. This book is a take on my book, Intentional Parenting, that I came up years ago. And it's how you would do On the back of that flyer that's in your handout, it gives you that QR code where you can get this. I'm almost finished with this book. Years ago, my wife and I were on a date night, and we were busier than we wanted to be. Now, some of our friends would look at us and go, they don't do anything. But we were busier than we wanted to be. So on this date night, I have a vivid memory of where we were at in the restaurant. My wife and I are talking, and my wife just asked a question out of the blue. And she said, hey, what do we want to be known for? And she and I quickly realized that some of the things we were doing were things we didn't want to be known for. So she and I, that date night, we just scribbled down 6 family values. And through the years, the verbiage of how we would talk about these values has changed. But the principle, the core of it has never changed, okay? So those 6 values, one of them is we have a PhD in snarkasm. All right, so we love snarky, witty sarcasm, okay? Yes, my man, okay? Let me tell you what that does for my kids. It raises some resilient kids who know they get up in the morning and their breath stinks, okay? Like, I mean, they're not fragile Fabergé eggs, okay? When they've been told, oh, that was kind of stupid, okay? They like, oh, that's just good, whatever. So we created these 6 values. One of them is F3, faith, family, and friends. We are fiercely loyal to those relationships. Another one is we embrace the everyday. We like going to the same donut shop. We like going to the same coffee house and building a relationship with those people there. We focus on the good stuff. If every time I come around you and like, hey, Kevin, how's it going? Well, you know, my toenail ain't grown again. I love you. I'm going to pray for you. But we probably not going to be Peter, James, and John's friends, okay? I mean, we're not going to be close. We're just not, okay? And as a side note, don't you know the other 9 were going like, there he goes again, up that mountain, Peter, James, and John, Peter, James, and John, all right? So we develop 6 values. I recommend in the book and in the ministry portion of the book to come up with 3 to 7, okay? You don't have to have Google. What you can use with AI there is to say, hey, give me a list of 100 core values. And then you and your wife or you and your team, y'all go and circle just whatever those generic words are, and then come back and compare and go and see what list you have, narrow it down, okay, to what you want to be known for, okay? So once you get your values, that's the V. The R is rhythms. So in your ministry, you come up with 3 to 7 core values, and these are not like ones that these are more like operational values, just how you work with people, okay? What you need to do is be very intentional in creating rhythms to bring those values to life. So what my wife and I did is we came up with some really hard times of where like, we're doing this activity, it's not going to be what we want to be known for. So we have to add some things to our life and then cut some things out. You may have to do that in your ministry. Start doing some things that you're not comfortable with, and then stop doing some things that you are comfortable with so you can be known for what you want to be known for in your city, in your community. And then the really fun part is the M, when you can celebrate those moments, okay? So values, rhythms, and moments. The moments story that I always tell is when Maddie was 15, 16, she was working as a barista at a coffee shop. And one of their patrons came through the drive-thru and ordered whatever drink. And one of our friends was working the drive-thru that day. Maddie was off. And the patron said, is Maddie here today? And they said, no, she's not. And the person said, can you just tell her I love her? She's just a bundle of energy, always smiling, so happy to be around. I love being around Maddie. And our friend said, can I tell you the truth? The whole stinking family's like that. They're all like that. So she sent me a screenshot of that conversation. I sent it to Maddie and the family group. We didn't buy Maddie a car. We didn't go on a European vacation, but we talked about it at dinner. So if you have something in ministry where you want a certain value to be brought to life, put the rhythms in place to bring it there, and then create moments to bring those values to life. So how you can use ChatGPT is have a thread and the C is when you do that, you will create what we call a culture of family. So when we live out those 6 values, we create the culture of family that we want. And so you can get Chat to give you the values and you and your team narrow it down and then say, hey, now here are our values. Give me some rhythms to bring these values to life, and then give me ways to celebrate this with my team. My wife, when she was still on staff at a hospital, they used to hand out gotcha cards. And it was, ooh, got you smiling at the patient today. Good job. Like high fives of honor type thing. So that's one way that you can do that. Any questions on that? All right. Eyes are looking a little heavy. All right. here's another one, and this one's really cool. So this is one of my guys on our team, Brandon Russian. Any of you ever had Brandon at your church? Heard of him? Brandon and I are also really good friends. He and I are putting together a couple of events that we want to do together. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But so Brandon, he calls it a family of characters. So he would come in. Dude is like 100 energy level, super, super high energy. His one character that he's really known for is Hey Ya. He is up there dancing, singing, carrying on, and super, super hype. So he will do 30 or 45 minutes as Hey Ya, and then he goes backstage to change, and he comes out as Brandon and does the lesson for the service or whatever. So I was presenting some of this content to my guys and getting them to think about ways they could use AI in their own individual ministries and stuff. And it hit me on the call with him. And I said, Brandon, I said, tell me, when you go off stage and they bring whatever person from the church up, I said, what happens in the room? And he said, dude, it's usually horrible, if I'm being honest. He said, because he is like way up here with energy. And even me coming up there as, pretty high energy, I'm not at that energy for 30 minutes. So I'm just not there. So when I try to, buy time until Brandon gets changed, I won't be at that energy level. I said, dude, what we need to do is create a clone of you to lead them in a 3, 5, however long it normally takes you to change, and create this version of you to lead them in a game, lead them in a song, lead them in something. And he went, that's brilliant. So in that list of resources that I gave you, there is this video to watch right here, okay? And what this video does is it takes ChatGPT, a Notebook LM, and one or two other little platforms that are fairly inexpensive, okay? And like less than 20 bucks or so. And what he did is this guy went in the free account of another platform called 11 Labs and another one called HeyGen. So don't worry about writing them down. They're all in the thing. And what he did is he just sat in a studio and they gave you a script where you're just sitting in however you want your video to look, your person to look. Sit there with that look, that outfit on, in the room you want to be recorded as, and you have a 2-minute script to read. So he reads it. And this is not him. This is a clone of him in the room. So he reads the script, and what it does is it creates that exact clone. Now what he can do, he went into ChatGPT and said, hey, I'm wanting to create a training video podcast style where I go back and forth talking about the benefits of AI. And so it gave him the script, person 1, person 2. He loaded that up into that one of those other platforms and said, hey, use me as the avatar. So he's person 1 and they just another person 2. And it created like a 12-minute video, the two of them talking, and he didn't create the script. He didn't record a single minute, and it did it. So what we're going to do with Brandon is record him in whatever he wants, okay, leading a game or whatever, and he won't have to create the script. We can get ChatGPT to create it for him. And Brandon, the clone of Brandon, will now be able to transition from his high energy level to him. So it's pretty cool to do. So how can you use that in your ministry? Okay. What if you wanted to create a ministry mascot? Okay. They have other characters we can use. Or what if it was you and you just wanted to do a recap video of the lesson? Okay. Have any of you ever tried to do that? It's horrible if you ever try to do it. The best guy I know to do it is Brian Dollar, where he does those singing wrap-up videos. Like, Brian's ridiculous, okay? Good at that. He's just ridiculously good at that. And like the first time I saw him at a conference years ago, I said, dude, did you bring Skittles? He's like, Clayton, I can't bring Skittles to this conference. I'm like, you need to bring Skittles to this conference. So I was at a conference with him years later, and he dressed up one day as Skittles. The line to take pictures with Skittles is out the door. I mean, it's just ridiculous. What you guys could do is you could do a wrap-up video for your lesson. You're talking on David and Goliath. I want to create a 60, 90-second video to recap this lesson where we touched on these 3 points. Give me the script for this, okay? And it's going to give you the 90-second script. Then you go into that platform where you created your clone, and you just say, here's the script. Use this clone and create me a video. So you create the clone once, and then you can just upload endless scripts to it, unless they change the pricing tier on it. But you can just upload endless scripts every week, and it'll give you a new video to recap. Or you could have a memory verse, or whatever you want that you want to use a video element for, you could do that. You could send out a newsletter to your parents and say, hey, parents, you curious about what we talked about? Watch this little 2-minute video recap. And you don't have to create the script. You have ChatGPT. You say, hey, I want to send a 2-minute video on David and Goliath to parents. Give it to me, and it'll spit it out. And then you go in and edit, some things, but you load it up into here. Now you've got a video you can take and load up to YouTube and just send the video to your parents. It's really cool, some things that you can do, okay? And I give you a bunch of ideas in that PDF on ways you could use a ministry mascot. And I show you the steps that he used to create it. But that little 12-minute video right there is good. And 99.9999% he doesn't cuss. This guy is very clean or doesn't use any profane language or anything in there. So it's a good video if you need to watch it. All right, so here's why all this matters. I saw this image long ago, and it says, with all this technology is making us antisocial. And it's people reading newspaper on a train, okay? You guys were born for such a time as this. How many of you would want to go back to the rolling cart days? Bro, not in a million years, okay? Now, I did make my pastor nervous a few years ago. I was helping out at my home church, and he was doing a lesson on sex. And he wanted me to mirror something similar. And I said, we did, and we used balloon animals and felt boards. And they was like, oh, my Lord. But yeah, you're born for such a time as this. I wouldn't want to go back. I mean, I love the ability and the ways that technology can help us reach young people today. All right. And they're growing up with this. How many of you were nervous when you first opened up a Facebook or Instagram account? You're nervous. But now, could you live without it? No. Technology is going to be just like that. Okay. I don't think AI is going to take over the world. I think people who know how to use it well will probably take over the world. Okay. Again, if you have any questions, you can shout those out. There's that QR code again if you didn't download the stuff that I'll send to you. Any questions, thoughts, comments, recipes?
Is Got Questions partially AI? You know the app Got Questions?
No, I don't.
It's a faith-based
Okay.
question app that you can ask it, any kind of question about the Bible.
Yeah.
It gives you a bunch of scriptures.
Okay. I've not heard of that. Sorry. Anybody else use Got Questions? I would be very, very, very surprised if by now they haven't utilized AI. I mean, it would just be silly not to. Oh, and this whole slideshow, AI. That robot, I said, ChatGPT, give it to me. So I didn't buy that anywhere. I found one with the kind of similar style that I wanted and uploaded it. So when you get the AI Super Bundle, that's the dude on the cover of the little bundle. Anything else? All right, here's the last question I asked. Oh, yes, sir.
Is there a way to do an AI like communication, like you're live and talk to a mascot like that? Probably you have to do a pause.
The only one, I'm sure there is. The one that I know of is like that Notebook LM example where he did that podcast episode. I started to do some live things here with us playing with it, but sometimes it's so jankety that it'll get confused and doesn't whatever. All right, here's the last question, the question I end. The first group heard it earlier. Oh, I'm sorry.
Is ChatGPT have like a payment thing where you can like have it for your church and then multiple people can use it?
I don't know about that, but
Or is it only linked to
if you do, here's this. I do know this. If you do the $20 plan, you can have different folders where you could have like student, kids, adults or whatever. And in that, on the $20 plan, you have folders, and then under that folder, you can have as many other folders as you want. So you might could do it that way. But to be honest, I would want to keep them separate, because one of the things with ChatGPT is it will kind of research all the other stuff you've uploaded, I have found, and it'll mess it up. And being completely honest and transparent, like I have a thread that is just random, that I call it random. And I told it in the beginning, any question I ask, do not think about anything else I've ever asked. When I ask you a question in here, we're only on this question, okay? So forget everything else. So if I talk to her for like 5 minutes, it'll stay within that little bundle right there. But I don't know that I want everybody knowing what I've asked ChatGPT. So, I mean, I'm not asking anything bad, but it's just.
We're talking like how she's the leader.
Yeah.
And then if you have helpers, and that way you can have like a family plan of where one person,
Yeah.
the church pays for it,
Right.
and then it reaches.
You probably could. I would be surprised if it didn't. I've just never researched that portion, so sorry I don't have an answer for that. Anything else?
I'll ask ChatGPT.
Yeah, ask it. I would. I don't know, ask it. Let's ask it right now. So think about this for a minute. I can't type and talk tell your friend next to you your favorite thing about the conference so far while I type this in. Go. That's an interactive question. Talk to your friend next to you. Tell them what you liked about the conference. You'll love that one. You'll love Notebook. All right. All right. What's your name, dude? Dylan asked about one account with multiple users. I asked, can I have one account with multiple users, such as one church account that various staff members can use? Yes, but the answer depends entirely on which platform you're asking about. I'm asking about chat, you fool. So, yeah.
So it has the individual plan.
Yeah.
Then it has team plan, which is 2 users.
Okay.
A little bit more expensive. Then it has an enterprise.
Okay.
But you have to contact service.
Yeah.
You probably want to know how many. And
Yeah.
a rate.
Yeah, I would just,
That does help.
yeah, I would either just let the volunteers have a free plan or something, or I don't know. I'd have to think through that because,
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
'cause my
it depends
brain
on
is-
how much you need.
yeah, my stream of consciousness on a couple of those, like people would go like, we need to pray right now. We need to pray. So yeah.